Roi walks away. Yi-seo watches with an unreadable expression. Yi-seo and Gun-soo are forced to run laps as punishment. Gun-soo laments that Roi was right. As minors, they can't take responsibility and are only tasked with laps and an apology letter. But Gun-soo just wonders why he hadn't been mad, even after his business was suspended. She grumbles that Roi is just full of himself, but as the pair write their apology letters, Gun-soo's words are still on her mind. Looking down, her apology letter is just a sketch of Roi. Over at Dambam, Sungkwon is also beating himself up over last night's events. He flashes back to prison 8 years ago. Unlike Roi, Sungkwon had bowed respectfully to Hee-hoon, the gangster leader Roi shared a cell with. Hee-hoon asked Roi to watch out for Sungkwon, but Roi had his nose buried in President Jang's autobiography. Later, Sungkwon asked about Roi. Hee-hoon grinned and hoped the two young men can get along like brothers. However, he warned Sungkwon not to agitate Roi. Sungkwon approached Roi. Sungkwon asked about the book. Roi replied there's a lot he wanted to learn and do. But Sungkwon couldn't understand why he's bothered since they both came from nothing. You don't think you have a chance because you're a poor, undereducated ex-con? And Sungkwon bristled. He accused Roi of being stuck up, snapping that they're in the same boat. Roi asked if that meant their lives were over, sighing that Sungkwon was a moron. And he knocked Roi to the ground, as he demanded whether Roi was going to work construction or on fishing boats. As the guards held Sungkwon back, Roi spat that he had no problem studying and starting with manual labor. He'd do whatever is necessary. You have no right to determine my value. Vowing to accomplish everything he wanted, Sungkwon was released from prison and narrates. Time passes by. Every day is the same, and I was sick of it. Sungkwon had resumed his life as a gangster. 7 years passed, and Hee-hoon had decided to drop by Roi's newly opened bar. Stunned to realize Roi did exactly as he'd promised. Roi greeted Sungkwon cheerfully, but I realized that the depth of the time he and I had spent are completely differently. And from that day on, Sungkwon became a regular customer. Over drinks, Sungkwon admitted to being Roi's fan and wished he could live a proper life too. Recalling their rocky first meeting, Roi had smiled and asked if Sungkwon was still a moron. Back in the present, Sungkwon continues to smack his head against the table, growling that he's still a moron. Meanwhile, Yi-seo flicks through her social media and decides to look up Roi. Unsurprisingly, she finds no results. Recalling Gunwon claimed they were classmates, Yi-seo tries his name. She finds articles about the assault that sent Roi to prison. Gunwon plays Baduk with President Jang and warns him that Min-young has been meeting with investors. Jang Ga was started by President Jang and Min-young's father, so the company could have been hers. President Jang dismisses his concern, assuring Gunwon he already has a plan. Instead revealing the bar Gun-soo was picked up at belonged to Roi, and boasts that Roi's business was suspended for 2 months. President Jang asks Secretary Kim about Gun-soo. Unlike his older brother, Gun-soo is a hard worker, bustling cheerfully around a small restaurant. His face falls, however, when he happens to overhear the couple that owns the restaurant fighting about firing him in lieu of an impending increase to minimum wage. As Gunwon leaves his father's office, he snickers to himself, imagining the look on Roi's face when his business is forced to close. Except, Roi is currently beaming as he sings loudly at the Noribang. She sighs that the business suspension is his fault, but then hands him some ointment and tells him not to do it again. The trio go out for drinks. Sungkwon is still apologetic and Roi coolly asks how long he's going to be like this. Sungkwon apologizes again, and Roi threatens to fire him if he says sorry one more time. Hyunhee cheekily goads Sungkwon to apologize again, and Roi pours Sungkwon a drink. He tells his staff to consider this 2-month suspension a chance to improve what they lack. He suggests they continue the party. Hyunhee immediately nixes the idea, while Sungkwon begs Roi not to sing again. Do you want to be fired? Roi deadpants. Min-young is meeting with 2 other board members. The men think President Jang is losing his touch. They say executives are concerned, and suggest it's time to start preparing for the succession of the company. Min-young plays dumb, but the men assure her she's their best candidate. She wonders if they think President Jang is a pushover and whether they're willing to go against him. Do you really think the company will run fine without him? Min-young admits she's unsatisfied with Gun-won, but that she's too young to be their cannon fodder. Meanwhile, Yi-seo walks past Danbam, reading the sign that says it'll be closed for 2 months. The year rolls over and Yi-seo no longer needs a fake ID. She narrates that she got accepted to every university she applied to, and despite it being her first day as a legal adult, she's already bored. She tells us she only befriends people based on connections. A guy approaches the group as a spokesman for his friends, offering to treat the ladies if allowed to join. Gun-soo checks his phone and sighs that his text congratulating Yi-seo on her birthday have gone unread. He trudges dejectedly up towards his apartment, unaware of President Jang watching from a nearby car. Back at the bar, Yi-seo's inner monologue declares that she's already annoyed by the young men. While she holds no issue with hookups on principle, She doesn't want anything from the men across the table. Feeling bored, Yi-seo wonders why ever since she met Se-roi, nothing else interests her. Speak of the devil, Se-roi meets Soo-ah at a bar. Suk-cheon curses whoever called the cops. Yi-seo excuses herself, warning the guys that her friend's dad is a chief prosecutor, so they should behave. Soo-ah reminisces that Se-roi used to like her in high school, and Se-roi replies that he still does. She wonders if he's drunk and points out that he never actually asked her out. Se-roi explains that they both prioritize their jobs, and once my business goes well, you'll end up losing your job. He breezily continues to say something about asking her out, but trails off at Soo-ah's expression. Se-roi laughs that he was joking, but Soo-ah knows he never says something he doesn't mean. As Yi-seo steps outside, he asks what she'll do since the buses aren't running, and Yi-seo coolly replies she'll get a taxi, and asks if she doesn't like him. Yi-seo turns back and confirms that she doesn't. Stunned, the guy asks what she doesn't like. Yi-seo easily lists off every trait she can think of and again excuses herself. The guy grabs her arm, asking why she drank with them. At the mention of money, Yi-seo agrees he must feel wronged, having spent so much trying to score. She pulls cash out of her wallet and tosses it at him, turning once more to go. This time the guy yanks her back and slaps her hard across the face. Who do you think is going to help you now? Stepping up to him, Yi-seo declares, myself. He scoffs and grabs her collar, pulling back to deliver another blow. Except Yi-seo grabs him first and throws him over her shoulder. She gives him a smart kick in the guy and then runs off. The women's bathroom is closed, so she's forced to duck into the men's and her face lights up to see Se-roi inside. The guy rushes in and Se-roi goes to wash his hands, turning to leave. Se-roi stops when Yi-seo calls out to him. The guy tries to lie that they're having a lover's quarrel, but Se-roi walks over to Yi-seo. But he feels bothered by Yi-seo's swollen cheek and the way she's looking at him. The guy snaps at Se-roi not to be nosy, but his eyes never leave Yi-seo's face as he asks, if I meddle here, does that mean I'm nosy? I can't do anything if you stay quiet. Smiling, Yi-seo asks him to help her. Se-roi takes her arm and starts to lead her out, slamming the jerk against a wall when he tries to stop them. The guy lunges again, and Se-roi punches him. Soo-ah has been waiting for Se-roi to return and is startled when he and Yi-seo run up, yelling for her to run too. The trio race through Itaewon. The group stops to catch their breath. Soo-ah demands an explanation and Yi-seo beams that Se-roi saved her. Soo-ah chides him for helping her, and her inflection is not lost on Se-roi, who asks if the women know each other. Realizing her mistake, Soo-ah quickly pouts that she's just upset Se-roi is so concerned for others. She denies calling the cops, but plays up her injury. Se-roi is oblivious and innocently suggests she see a doctor. And when she promises to give him advice for promoting Dambam, Se-roi can't refuse. At a nearby cafe, Se-roi asks whether she has an interest in marketing. She confirms she does, for asking what his relationship is with Soo-ah, adding pointedly that he's liked her for 10 years. Se-roi shyly agrees before jumping on the opportunity to leave to fetch their coffee. Left alone, Soo-ah snidely replies she saw Yi-seo's profile among the candidates for Jang Ga's social media models. Ignoring Yi-seo's flippant inquiry as to why she wasn't picked, Soo-ah wonders if Yi-seo likes Se-roi. Yi-seo admits that she's interested but is unsure whether she likes him. Soo-ah concedes he's attractive but warns that he's not someone Yi-seo can deal with. To Soo-ah's surprise, Yi-seo is aware of Se-roi's criminal record and actually says it makes him more attractive. Soo-ah chides Yi-seo's lack of shame, reminding her that Se-roi's bar is closed thanks to Yi-seo. This piques Yi-seo's attention, and she wonders how Soo-ah knows it's her fault. Soo-ah falters and Yi-seo guesses that she's the one who called the cops on the bar. Yi-seo takes Soo-ah's inability to answer as confirmation and asks why. Because his pub is across from yours? Is that why you stabbed your friend who's liked you for 10 years in the back? Assuming Soo-ah wants to create a barrier around Se-roi so no one else can have him. Soo-ah snaps that Yi-seo can't have him because Se-roi will never change. Yi-seo wonders if that will remain so after he finds out what Soo-ah did. Se-roi returns from the world's longest coffee run to find the mood strained. Soo-ah responds by coolly admitting she's the one who reported Se-roi's pub to the police. Her point is proven when Se-roi confirms he still likes her, but her face falls when he adds that he's disappointed. Shaken, Soo-ah excuses herself and Se-roi asks Yi-seo if they should leave as well. Yi-seo reminds him she offered to help promote the bar and suggests they get a drink since she's legal now. Having relocated to a bar, Se-roi asks again if Yi-seo would rather go home, but she's curious why he isn't upset by Soo-ah's betrayal. Se-roi doesn't consider it betrayal. Yi-seo doesn't follow, and Se-roi explains that feelings aren't measured by give and take. Yi-seo groans that she doesn't want to talk about Soo-ah anymore. Sung-kwon is taking advantage of the empty kitchen to work out and is glad Hyunhee showed up because he wants to go to the sauna. He offers to pay if she'll scrub his back and she balks at the suggestion, but he argues he'd scrub hers too. But Sung-kwon blocks her path. He cockily assures her size isn't all that counts, and she throws a dirty rag in his face on her way out, guessing he's never worked in a pub before. Yi-seo explains that he lacks basics, echoing President Jang's autobiography. Yi-seo explains she's noticed successful trends and is embarrassed when Se-roi praises her. And she grins that today it tastes sweet. Se-roi says that means she's had an impressive day. Yi-seo says the bar's name doesn't suit Itaewon, wondering why Se-roi chose Danbam. It's just, I want my bitter night and my life to be sweet. As Yi-seo stares at him, she thinks that her heart feels strange. Se-roi laughs that he must be drunk to talk so much, and promptly passes out. This guy with a buzz cut just sprawled out drunk. But he looks cute. This is awkward. He says his night is bitter, but I want it to be sweet. I want to make his life sweet. The feeling I have now is the most foolish thing a human can do, and recalls Sua's question as to whether she likes him. With a sigh, she realizes she does. Yi-seo leans in for a kiss, and Se-roi wakes up in a hospital bed with a start. He declares that was a dangerous dream. Meanwhile, Yi-seo drinks hangover soup at home. Mom asks if she's dating, and before Yi-seo can answer, Mom orders her not to. Yi-seo asks why Mom married her dad, and Mom says that while their relationship was less than 10 years, they loved each other. Mom sighs that memories are all she has left of her life as a woman. Yi-seo starts to ask about if she were to fall in love with a mediocre man. But Mom shuts her down, declaring she's too good to ruin her life for love. She says people call producing results to match your values a good choice. Pulling out a coin, she declares that if it comes up heads, she'll do as Mom wants. But if it's tails, Mom will probably cry. Flipping it in the air, Yi-seo misses catching it, and it plummets into the river below. Yi-seo's narration continues. Did the coin come up head or tails? Flipping the coin, which one did I wish for? I decided to call it tails. She races to Danbam, catching her breath just as Se-roi steps outside. She smiles as her voiceover says she knew as soon as she saw him, there was no reason to hesitate. Se-roi asks if she made it home last night and wonders why she's here. Yi-seo says she did and then blurts, I want to be with you. Her voiceover says her mom is right and love and success are within her reach. Yi-seo says, I want to work here. I will help you achieve your dream, boss. She thinks that Mom will just have to be sad for a little while, but vows that she will turn Se-roi into someone amazing.